Kamala Harris, the former vice president of the United States, sat down for an interview where she was talking about running for president in 2028. And she left the crowd completely baffled because no one understood what she was trying to say. She went down a complete rabbit hole. And to make matters worse, she did the same thing with Don Lemon, who is under investigation for allegedly raiding a church in Minneapolis. Kamala Harris did an interview with Don Lemon, and essentially no one understood what she was trying to say. But let us get into it by starting with this video of that first interview where she just went on a complete tangent, incoherent play clip.
You've talked about that you're thinking about running for president, right? How is that thought process going? What's the process in that? And I know you're on a listening tour, and I'm curious what you're hearing from people as you've gone around the country, what people are telling you that maybe you've learned that you didn't know before the process of doing so.
What people are telling me includes that they want to believe in systems, and they've lost trust in those systems. What I hear a lot is that people know that at the end of this administration, there will be a lot of debris. I tell them often, I can't guarantee that it won't get worse before it gets better. But the one thing I do know is at the end of it, there will be a lot of debris, and it would be irresponsible to then address that in a way that we only talk about what should we do, what do we need to do to rebuild. If we do that with any sense of nostalgia, that would be irresponsible. The status quo is not working for a lot of people. And what the people are telling us is that they want things to be better. And in some places, what that sounds like is we want that to be broken. But they don't actually necessarily mean break it through destruction. But they do mean it has to be better.
That was the former vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris, being asked about running for president in 2028. And she said a whole bunch of nothing. A whole bunch of stuff that just doesn't make sense at all, because she's talking about breaking systems without breaking systems. How do you break something without breaking it? Can you explain that to me in the comments? It just doesn't make sense at all. She's talking about the administration, the Trump administration, leaving debris, which I'm not sure what she's talking about. It just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe she's speaking a different language, because I know she's half Indian, so maybe she could be speaking Punjabi, and I'm just a silly guy on the internet that's trying to essentially understand what she's trying to say. But she sat down for an interview with Don Lemon, the same guy that is under investigation for allegedly raiding a church in Minneapolis this past winter. But she sat down for an interview where they were talking about essentially the Electoral College. They were talking about this country finding Christianity again. So maybe that is a system that she's talking about breaking. And this is what she had to say, because Kamala Harris, she lost that election in 2024, and she's trying to run again in 2028. And I think what we're going to see her becoming more radical.
Well, since we're there, what about the Electoral College?
I think we need to look at that too. Yes. Yes, I do.
Because it's clear to me, this is me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that we are being governed by a minority in this country, because most people in this country aren't as extreme as the folks who are, they're not MAGA, they're not extreme right. They believe that a woman should have a right to choose, but that's not actually what we're living under right now. They believe that there should be a separation of church and state, where you can worship whatever God you want, or you don't have to at all. And it seems like we're moving into, because of this minority, into Christian nationalism, and into, having the majority of Americans' freedoms diminished or restricted because we're being governed by the minority.
Yes, and I think that there is some real shaking up that we have to do of the rules and the structure. And
Is that get rid of the Electoral College?
I think that should be a discussion that we should have.
That was Kamala Harris and Don Lemon talking about restructuring or reshaping the country, and that the country is being governed by a small minority, which I don't know what minority they're talking about, because if they're talking about the administration, then a lot of the policies that we're seeing coming out of this administration, the President Trump's administration, guess what? These are common sense policies. So I don't know what minority they're talking about. The only party that we're seeing governed by the minority is the Democrat Party. Because right now, the Democrat Party has been taken over by a whole bunch of radicals. And to show you exactly what I'm talking about, here we have Don Lemon asking Kamala Harris about her run in 2028 and that she's trailing Gavin Newsom and AOC, who are two of the most radical left-wing Democrats nationally. And Kamala Harris, she barely answered the question. She just mumbled her way through the answer. And this is what she had to say. Play clip.
The party is unsettled, I feel. Maybe you disagree with that. Gavin Newsom is moving. AOC is building something. Is there a lane that belongs uniquely to Kamala Harris?
Oh, I don't exclude myself from any lane. I mean, there's
All the lanes, all the things.
well, I'm not, I have never been one to believe I don't belong somewhere. Let me just put it that way. And I mean, honestly, Don, for most of, I'd say almost my entire elected career, I've probably been, as much as anything, the outsider on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't believe that there's, or anyone, much less myself, but that anyone should be limited by others' ability or inability to see your capacity. Let that be their limitation, not yourself.
I just don't understand how Kamala Harris is able to sit there and mumble all these words together while sounding so confident and saying nothing at all. And a lot of you guys maybe want, and she didn't rule out running for president in 2028. That literally confirmed that she's running in 2028, even though she got annihilated by President Trump in 2024. And to show you exactly where she stands, because she's being led, as I mentioned before, by Gavin Newsom, who's at 23%. John Ossoff, which is quite surprising, at 12% in second place. AOC at 10%. And Kamala is fourth place for the Democratic presidential nominee at 7.4%. So Kamala Harris, she's polling very low, and she's trying to run for president in 2028. Let me know, how do you think that's going to go in the comment section. But here we have Kamala Harris on what she'll do under the guise of accountability to her political enemies, as if what they did under President Joe Biden wasn't enough. And this is what she had to say in regards to investigating and targeting her political enemies. Play clip, which we all know is President Donald Trump.
I'm not a politician, but I think that the people who deserve to be prosecuted or whatever it is for misusing the Justice Department and abusing, I believe, American citizens and American politicians, or whether you want to say political rivals or whatever, I think that they should face, some sort of justice.
Oh, well, I absolutely believe that. And I believe that there should be there should be accountability.
But how does that look like in a legal realm?
And especially for people in the highest roles of power and authority, those who abuse their power and authority should be held accountable, and there should be consequence.
If you are president, let's just say in 2028 you are elected, will you make sure that there's accountability?
Oh, I believe firmly in accountability.
That was Kamala Harris stating that if she should become president in 2028, what she'll do, she'll bring accountability, also known as target her political enemies. Exactly what they did under President Joe Biden, under the guise of accountability. And Don Lemon is here instigating this because he's under investigation by the Department of Justice. I believe he was charged for allegedly raiding a church in Minneapolis. And these are the people that Kamala Harris and the rest of the Democrats they like to associate themselves with. Someone who went from one state to another state to allegedly raid that church where people were going to worship. And that brings us to the end of this video. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below in regards to Kamala Harris always rambling on and her planned run for 2028. Do you think she has a shot? Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.